Secretary,
Excused from tonight's meeting. Director Leonard.
Present.
Director Simpson.
Present.
Director Taylor. And Chair Peterson.
present.
We have 4 committee members present.
The chair will now ask the secretary to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. The chair invites any members of the audience who wish to participate to do so and asks that those who do not wish to participate please remain silent during the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we begin tonight's meeting, we'll have a short announcement regarding the interpretation services for Spanish-speaking members of our audience.
Buenas tardes y bienvenidos a la Junta Escolar de las Escuelas Públicas de Milwaukee. Si desea escuchar esta reunión en español, por favor llame al 312-626-6799. Nuevamente, 312-626-6799. E introduzca el número de reunión 608-130-5362. Nuevamente, el número de reunión es 608-130-5362. Gracias.
Gracias. For each of our items of business, we'll hold a discussion and public hearing. Those who wish to speak on tonight's items are required to register to speak in advance. When you are called upon to speak, please state your name and spell your last name for the record. For the sake of fairness and to give everyone a chance to speak, the chair reserves the right to limit the length of time allowed to any one speaker. Written testimony will be accepted for transmittal to the boards. Send this testimony to the Office of Board Governance, P.O. Box 2181, Milwaukee, Wisconsin 53201, or fax to 414-475-8071, or email to governance@milwaukee.k12.wi.us. Just as a reminder, Robert Rules of Order dictates that all comments should be directed to the chair of the committee. Also, any questions or requests, including those from the public, committee members, or administration, are to be directed towards the chair, who will determine the most efficient way to address them. For the safety of all and to ensure good order in the meeting, harassment or intimidation tactics of any kind will not be tolerated. Anyone who engages in such harassing or intimidating words or actions will immediately be asked to cease. If such behavior continues, a recess will be called and the offending parties will be removed from the meeting before the meeting resumes. Anyone ejected from the meeting may continue to listen to the meeting or access the agenda items online. However, he or she will not be allowed to rejoin the meeting. Also, no one other than the members of the board, designated staff, or those who have been invited to present on items to business will be allowed on stage before, during, or after meetings of the board and its committees. Also, for our listening audience, if you wish to access this evening's agenda items and attachments online, you may do so by visiting Meetings, Agendas, and Minutes page on the MPS website and choosing Online Agendas. Now, let's begin. Madam Secretary, item 1.
Item 1 is action on Resolution 2223R-11 by Director Gokul Gandhi on gender inclusion. The recommendation is that the board adopt Resolution 2223R-11 as attached to this item.
Okay, obviously, Director Gokul Gandhi is not here to speak to the resolution, but we'll ask the administration first to tell us what they think.
Good evening, Chair Peterson and members of the committee. Keith Posley, Superintendent of Schools. This evening, the administration brings to you Resolution 2223R-010 by Director Gokul Gandhi regarding gender inclusion. The administration is prepared to accept the recommendation, and we are prepared to do what's need to happen to bring this back in March.
Very good. Members of the committee, do we have any comments? Okay, could I have a motion?
I move that we adopt Resolution 2223R-001.
Very good. Any other comments? Seeing none, Madam Secretary, please take the roll.
Mr. Chair, we do not have any public testimony on this item either.
Thank you.
On Director Simpson's motion to approve Resolution 2223R-11 by Director Gokul Gandhi on gender inclusion, Director Leonard.
Aye.
Director Simpson,
Aye.
Director Taylor. And Chair Peterson.
Aye.
That's 4 ayes, the motion passes.
Madam Secretary, next item, please.
The next item is item number 2, which is action on a request to approve revisions to Administrative Policy 6.11, Tobacco Products Use on Board Property. The recommendation is that the board approve the revisions to the policy as attached to this item.
Will the administration please present the item?
Good evening, Chair Peterson and members of the committee. This evening, we are asking for your approval on revisions of Administrative Policy 6.11, Tobacco Products Use on Board Property. Jennifer Mims Howell is here with me, and she's going to walk us through the revisions. Jennifer.
Thank you, Dr. Posley. Chair Peterson, members of the committee, Administrative Policy 6.11, tobacco products used on board property. This revision tonight is being brought to you to include additional actions and descriptions of tobacco products, and also to expand the definition and location of what are considered events on school property or school-sponsored events. Those are the changes. We're open to any questions you may have.
Okay, committee members, do you have any questions or comments? Looks like we're all good here. Was there any public comment, Madam Secretary?
Mr. Chair, there is no public testimony on this item. However, for the listening audience, there may be some benefit to explaining some of the additions to the policy
Sure.
or changes.
I think that's a good idea. Administration, why don't you do so?
Chair Peterson, members of the committee, some of the additions to this policy speak about the locations of what is considered school property. So this is school buses, as well as extracurricular events that are sponsored by Milwaukee Public Schools, as well as the description to the types of tobacco products, which include all tobacco products as well as vaping materials.
Thank you very much. I know the issue of vaping is a national issue that's been in the courts recently, so I appreciate the changes. Any other comments? A motion, perhaps? Director Taylor. Okay, it's been moved. Please take the roll.
On Director Taylor's motion to approve revisions to Administrative Policy 6.11 on tobacco products used on board property. On the motion as read, Director Leonard.
Aye.
Director Simpson.
Aye.
Director Taylor. And Chair Peterson.
Aye.
That's 4 ayes, the motion passes.
Madam Secretary, next item, please.
The next item is item number 3, which is action on a request to approve revisions to Administrative Policy 9.08, Advertising in Schools. The recommendation is that the board approve the revisions to the policy as attached to this item.
Will the administration please present the item?
Good evening, Chair Peterson and members of the committee. This evening, we're asking for your approval on the revisions of Administrative Policy 9.08, advertising in schools. Jennifer Mims Howell will provide the revisions, and after which we'll be more than happy to entertain any questions that you may have. Jennifer.
Chair Peterson, members of the committee, Jennifer Mims Howell, Chief Academic Officer. Administrative Policy 9.08, Advertising in School. This policy was revised to include a description of the types of unallowable items and gifts that could be provided to Milwaukee Public Schools by the tobacco industry. It also expands the definition of the tobacco products used, very similar to the last policy. And it also talks about how MPS cannot accept any promotions of items from the tobacco industry, as well as prohibits MPS employees from carrying gear, technology accessories, bags, or clothing that speak or carry paraphernalia from a tobacco industry. We are open for any questions.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, is there any public comment on this?
Mr. Chair, we have no request for public testimony on this item.
Okay, members of the committee, any comments or questions or motion? Director Simpson.
I'll take this one.
Director
Excuse-
Leonard.
Sure. All right, I move to approve the revisions of policy, and I lost it, sorry,
9.08.
9.08, as administration set forth.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, please take the roll.
On Director Leonard's to approval of the changes to Administrative Policy 9.08, advertising in schools, as attached to this item. Director Leonard.
Aye.
Director Simpson.
Aye.
Director Taylor. And Chair Peterson.
Aye.
That's 4 ayes, the motion passes.
Madam Secretary, next item, please.
The next item is item number 4, which is action on a request to approve revisions to Administrative Policy 7.06, Health Education. The recommendation is that the board approve the revisions to Policy 7.06 as attached to this item.
Thank you. Administration, would you please present the item?
Good evening, Chair Peterson and members of the committee. This evening, we're asking for your approval on the revisions to Administrative Policy 7.06, Health Education. Jennifer Mims Howe will walk you through the revisions, and afterwards, we'll be happy to entertain any questions you may have. Jennifer.
Chair Peterson, members of the committee, Jennifer Mims Howe, Chief Academic Officer. The revisions to Administrative Policy 7.06, Health Education, outlines and includes now a revision that prohibits the acceptance of educational materials created by or with the input of any tobacco industry. What's been added here is that no one on behalf of Milwaukee Public Schools may accept or solicit curricular materials that of any kind that are created by a tobacco industry. We're open for any questions.
Thank you very much. Do any committee members wish to make comments or ask questions? Madam Secretary, do we have any public comment on this item?
Mr. Chair, we have no request for public testimony on this item.
Therefore, what is the pleasure of the committee with respect to this item? Director Simpson.
I move that we approve the revisions to Administrative Policy 7.06, Health Education.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, will the secretary please call the roll?
On Director Simpson's motion to approve the revisions to Administrative Policy 7.06, Health Education, as outlined in the attachments to this item. Director Leonard.
Aye.
Director Simpson.
Aye.
Director Taylor. And Chair Peterson.
Aye.
That's 4 ayes. The motion passes.
Madam Secretary, next item, please.
The next item is item number 5, which is action on a request to reaffirm Administrative Policy 7.01, Teaching and Learning Goals. The recommendation is that the board reaffirm Administrative Policy 7.01 as outlined in the attachments to this item.
Will the administration please present this item?
Good evening, Chair Peterson and members of the committee. This evening, we are asking you to approve and reaffirm the Administrative Policy 7.01, Teaching and Learning Goals. Jennifer Mims Howell is here with me this evening, and between the two of us, we can answer any questions that you may have in regards to this item.
Very good.
Chair Peterson, members of the committee, it has been determined by the academic team that this policy listed above, that the policy listed 7.01, Teaching and Learning Goals, does not need any modifications at this time. We ask for the board to affirm this policy.
Thank you. Any comments from the board? Yes, Dr. Scheller? Okay. So there's a motion to approve. I would like to make a comment. I'm going to hand my gavel over to Dr. Leonard.
So noted.
I just want to mention how much I think these teaching and learning goals are worth sharing with our teachers and our schools. I mean, they were developed many years ago. I particularly like 1B, students shall project anti-racist, anti-biased attitudes through their participation in a multilingual, multi-ethnic, culturally diverse curriculum. I think we've been moving in that direction since about 20 years ago, when these were first developed by teachers and parents and community members. And I hope that teachers will see this goal as giving them permission to discuss these issues in classrooms and to further our attempts to make sure that we live in a society where there's reduced amount of racism, sexism, and other problems. So I appreciate that. I know that there, at the time, and I'm sure they're still around, there were learning objectives that broke these, each of these goals down into 4 grade level bands. And so that is something else that I think can be shared with teachers, because sometimes people think that the youngest kids are not aware of race and other things, and they are, obviously. And the sooner that we intervene and help to the degree necessary to be respectful, the better we will all be. So thank you for putting up with my little monologue. But any other comments or questions? Any public comment?
Mr. Chair, we have no request for public testimony on this item, and just for record-keeping purposes, this is one of the policies that is up for review every 5 years, and this reaffirmation is a part of that 5-year policy review process.
Thank you very much. And we have a motion on the floor already by Director Taylor, so could I please?
Mr. Chair,
Yeah?
does Director Taylor have the gavel, or?
Oh, wait, Director Leonard does.
I have the
Director Leonard,
gavel,
okay.
and I'm going to give it back
Okay, so
to
noted.
President Peterson.
I'm sorry.
Thank you so much.
Okay, Director Taylor has put forth the motion. Could you please call the roll?
On Director Taylor's motion to approve the administration's recommendation relative to the reaffirmation of Administrative Policy 7.01, Teaching and Learning Goals. On the motion as read into the record, Director Leonard,
Aye.
Director Simpson,
Aye.
Director Taylor, and Chair Peterson.
Aye.
That's 4 ayes. The motion passes.
Madam Secretary, next item, please.
The next item is item number 6, which is action on a request to reaffirm Administrative Policy 7.02, Instructional Priority Objectives. The recommendation is that the board reaffirm the policy as outlined in the attachments to this item.
Will the administration please present this item?
Good evening, Chair Peterson and members of the committee. This evening, we're asking your approval to reaffirm Administrative Policy 7.02. Jennifer Mims Howell will lead you through now. Jennifer.
Chair Peterson, members of the committee, Jennifer Mims Howell, Chief Academic Officer. Tonight, we request that you reaffirm Administrative Policy 7.02. The academic team has reviewed and is asking that because this policy is still appropriate for the mission and vision of Milwaukee Public Schools, it needs no modifications. We are asking for reaffirmation of the policy.
Thank you very much. Members of the committee, do you have any questions or comments? Director Simpson.
I actually just have a question. So just in terms of the last part of that, that assessment of the priorities in education, could you just broadly share how that takes place?
Administration.
Chair Peterson and members of the committee, we are closing in on the item, and Jennifer Mims Howell will be going through that item for you right away. Jennifer.
Chair Peterson, members of the committee, Jennifer Mims Howell, Chief Academic Officer. The question that Director Simpson, you asked, was that about involving the members of the community at large?
Go
Well,
ahead,
or just,
Director Simpson.
thank you, sorry. Yeah, just, it just says, identifying those yearly objectives and assessments, assessment priorities. Just wondering, just kind of like how that's done, not, not in great detail, just kind of a big picture look at how how this policy is enacted.
Administration.
To answer that question, Chair Peterson, members of the committee, so basically what we do is we look at, as a district, what the assessments are that are for the state. We make sure that we're always in alignment with the state. We also look at what the priorities of the district are. So what our strategic plan is saying, what our school and district improvement plans are saying, and then it's determined there what we will look at. And as we look at our instructional objectives, we also look at grade band standards as we look through that. And then the input that we receive from the public sometimes comes through a textbook adoption or a public meeting for parents, or even just a parent-teacher conference too, to talk about what specific students are doing. But overall, we look at it from the district goals and objectives.
Thank you. Follow-up?
No, thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other comments or questions by the committee members? Is there any public comment requested?
Mr. Chair, we have no request for public testimony on this item.
And therefore, I'd look for a motion. Director Leonard.
I move to reaffirm Administrative Policy 7.02, Instructional Priority Objectives.
Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
On the motion by Director Leonard as read into the record to reaffirm Administrative Policy 7.02. Director Leonard.
Aye.
Director Simpson.
Aye.
Director Taylor. And Chair Peterson.
Aye.
That's 4 ayes. The motion passes.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, next item, please.
The next item is item number 7, which is action on a request to approve revisions to Administrative Policy 7.03, the school year and school calendar. The recommendation is that the board approve the revisions to Administrative Policy 7.03 on the school year and school calendar.
Administration, would you please present this item?
Good evening, Chair Peterson and members of the committee. This evening, we are asking your approval on revisions of Administrative Policy 6.11, School Year, School Calendar. Jennifer Mims Howell, Chief Academic Officer, is prepared to present the revisions. Jennifer.
Chair Peterson, members of the committee, we are requesting approve the revisions for Administrative Policy 7.03, School Year, School Calendar. This policy and its revisions now align to the updated Wisconsin state statutes, which specify the number of instructional hours planned for each grade level. In addition, it talks about the instructional days in the event of an unexpected school closure. It also includes our charter and non-instrumentality requirements, as well as alternate school reporting requirements as well. It also talks to the policy also speaks to the approval of the calendar and getting stakeholder input. We're open to any questions you may have.
Thank you. Members of the committee, any questions or comments? Director Leonard.
Just a curiosity, but why do our instrumentality and non-instrumentality charters only have to report total hours?
Administration.
Chair Peterson and members of the committee, the reason why is that we are following basically state statute around what we need to do for traditional schools as well as charter schools, and I will have Dr. Mell to go into details.
Good evening, Director Peterson, members of the committee. Charter schools by state statute do not have to follow all of the state statutes that general public schools do, and this is one of them. So while the majority of our charter schools meet or exceed these recommendations, they are not required to meet these, but they are required to report instructional minutes each year. So that's part of state statute.
Any follow-up, Director Leonard?
No, that's good.
Any other
Thank you.
comment by board members? Committee members? Mr. Simpson.
I move that we approve the revisions to Administrative Policy 7.03 regarding the school year and school calendars.
Any further conversation? Seeing none, Madam Secretary, would you please call the roll?
And we have no request for public testimony on this item. On Director Simpson's motion to approve the administration's recommendation relative to revisions to the Administrative Policy 7.03 school year school calendar. On the motion as read, Director Leonard,
Aye.
Director Simpson,
Aye.
Director Taylor, Chair Peterson.
Aye.
That's 4 ayes, the motion passes.
Madam Secretary, next item, please.
The next item is item number 8, which is action on a request to approve revisions to Administrative Policy 7.04 School Day. The recommendation is that the board approve the revisions to Administrative Policy 7.04 as attached to this item.
Administration, please present this item.
Good evening, Chair Peterson and members of the committee. This evening, we're asking for your approval on revisions to Administrative Policy 7.04 School Day. Jennifer Mims-Howell is here and will present the requested revisions, and after which we'll be more than happy to entertain any questions you may have. Jennifer.
Chair Peterson, member of the committee, we are asking for the request for approval on revisions for Administrative Policy 7.04, the school day. Administration recommends the revision to include and clarify that all high schools now are provided a closed campus lunch, as well as clarifying the numbers of hours, the numbers of how hours of instruction are computed, which aligns to the updated Wisconsin state statute. We open it for any questions.
Any comment or question by committee members? No. Is there any public comment, Madam Secretary?
Mr. Chair, we have no request for public testimony on this item.
I'm going to just toss the gavel over to Director Leonard.
So noted.
I've got the gavel. Go.
Okay. I just have a question. Is this a change in terms of policy for closed campus lunch? Are there high schools that have an open campus lunch at this point?
Chair Peterson, member of the committees, at this time, no, there are no schools that have open campus lunch.
Thank you. I'll take the gavel back.
So noted.
Any other comments or questions? Could I get a motion? Director Taylor? Okay, there's been a motion for approval of this item. Any further commentary? Seeing none, Madam Secretary, would you please call the roll?
On Director Taylor's motion to approve the revisions to Administrative Policy 7.04 on school day as outlined in the attachment to this item. Director Leonard,
Aye.
Director Simpson,
Aye.
Director Taylor, Chair Peterson.
Aye.
That's 4 ayes, the motion passes.
Madam Secretary, next item, please.
The next item is item number 9, which is action on a request to approve revisions to Administrative Policy 8.24 Students of Legal Age. The recommendation is that the board approve the policy as outlined in the attachment to this item.
Administration, would you please present this item?
Good evening, Chair Peterson and members of the committee. This evening, we're asking for your approval on revisions to Administrative Policy 8.24, Students of Legal Age. Jennifer Mims-Howell, Chief Academic Officer, is here with me to present the requested revisions. Following, we will be more than happy to answer any questions that you may have. Jennifer.
Chair Peterson, members of the committee, tonight we're asking for approval for the revisions to Administrative Policy 8.24, Students of Legal Age. The policy has been updated to include the language for 18-year-olds regarding school meals, as well as their instructional materials as determined by their social economic circumstances. It also clarifies out-of-school behavior as it's addressed by school officials. This policy also includes a clause that speaks to all high schools having closed lunch campuses in which students may not leave the grounds. We're open for any questions.
Thank you. Committee members, do you have any comments or questions? Seeing none, was there any public testimony?
We have no public testimony on this item.
Okay. Could I get a motion? Director Leonard?
Oops. I move that we approve the revisions to Administrative Policy 8.24, Students of Legal Age.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, could you please take the roll?
On Director Leonard's motion to approve the revisions to Administrative Policy 8.24, Students of Legal Age, as outlined in the attachments to this item. Director Leonard,
Aye.
Director Simpson,
Aye.
Director Taylor? Chair Peterson?
Aye.
That's 4 ayes. The motion passes.
Madam Secretary, next item, please.
The next item is item 10, action on a request to approve revisions to Administrative Policy 8.25, married or pregnant students. The recommendation is that the board approve the revisions to Policy 8.25 as outlined in the attachments to this item.
Will the administration please present this item?
Good evening, Chair Peterson and members of the committee. This evening, we are asking for your approval on revisions to Administrative Policy 8.25, marriage/pregnant students. Jennifer Mims Howell is here to present the requested revisions, and after which we'll be more than happy to entertain any questions you may have. Jennifer.
Chair Peterson, members of the committee, tonight we ask for the approval for the revisions for Administrative Policy 8.25, married pregnant students. One of the revisions we're asking for is a change to the title, married school-age parents. We also have revised this policy to remove gender-biased language, as well as update the supports that are offered in schools for our school-age parents. We're open for any questions.
Thank you very much. Committee members, do you have any comments or questions about this policy change? Director Simpson?
I just appreciate the change in language. It's much more reflective of where our district is at, so I appreciate that. And I will move that we approve the revisions to Administrative Policy 8.25, married and pregnant students.
Thank you. Is there any other comments? Question? And was there any public commentary?
Mr. Chair, we have no request for public testimony on this item.
Thank you very much. And therefore, would you please take the roll?
On Director Simpson's motion to approve the revisions to Administrative Policy 8.25 as outlined in the attachments to this item. Director Leonard?
Aye.
Director Simpson?
Aye.
Director Taylor? Chair Peterson?
Aye.
That's 4 ayes. The motion passes.
Thank you. Will the Secretary please give us our next item?
The next item is item number 11, which is action on a request to approve revisions to Administrative Policy 9.05, school child care facilities. The recommendation is that the board approve the revisions to Administrative Policy 9.05 as outlined in the attachment to this item.
Thank you very much. Will the administration please present this item?
Good evening, Chair Peterson and members of the committee. This evening, we are asking for your approval on revisions on Administrative Policy 9.05, child care facilities. Jennifer Mims Howell is here to go over the revisions. Jennifer?
Chair Peterson, members of the committee, tonight we ask for your approval to the revisions of Administrative Policy 9.05, school child care facilities. Every fifth year, the board is asked to the administration is asked to revisit this policy and to look for revisions. Tonight, we are updating and aligning the policy 9.05, school child care facilities, to Administrative Policy 3.09, purchasing and bidding requirements, so that we are in alignment. We're open for any questions you may have.
Members of the committee, do you have any questions or comments? Did any of the people in the public wish to speak, Madam Secretary?
We have no public testimony on this item, Mr. Chair.
Okay, I guess I need a motion. Director Taylor? Okay, a motion has been made. Any further commentary? Seeing none, Madam Secretary, please take the roll.
On Director Taylor's motion to approve the revisions to Administrative Policy 9.05, school child care facilities as outlined in the attachments to this item. Director Leonard.
Oops. Aye.
Director Simpson.
Aye.
Director Taylor. Chair Peterson.
Aye.
That's 4 ayes. The motion passes.
Madam Secretary, next item, please.
The next item is item 12, which is action on a request to approve revisions to Administrative Policy 8.21, secret societies. The recommendation is that the board approve the revisions to the policy as outlined in the attachments to this item.
Administration, will you please present this item?
Good evening, Chair Peterson and members of the committee. This evening, we're asking for your approval on revisions to Administrative Policy 8.21, Secret Societies. Jennifer Mims Howell is here with me and prepared to go over the revisions. Jennifer?
Chair Peterson, members of the committee, tonight we ask for your approval on the revisions from Administrative Policy 8.21, Secret Societies. The policy is updated to show alignment to our Administrative Policy 8.28, which is the Student Discipline and the Milwaukee Board of School Directors Code of School/Classroom Conduct regarding the offenses that warrant suspension and expulsions. We ask for approval with this alignment. We're open for any questions.
Thank you very much. Committee members, do you have any questions or comments? Madam Secretary, was there any request for public commentary?
Mr. Chair, we have no request for public testimony on this item.
Thank you very much. Looking for a motion. Director Leonard.
I move that we approve the revisions to Administrative Policy 8.21, Secret Societies.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, would you please call the roll?
On the motion by Director Leonard is read into the record relative to the revisions of Administrative Policy 8.21. Director Leonard.
Aye.
Director Simpson. Director Taylor. Chair Peterson.
Aye.
That's 4 ayes. The motion passes.
Madam Secretary, what's the next item of business?
The next item is item 13, action on a request to approve revisions to Administrative Policy 8.08, entrance age. The recommendation is that the board approve the revisions to the policy as outlined in the attachments to this item.
Thank you. Will the administration please present this item?
Good evening, Chair Peterson and members of the committee. This evening, we're asking for your approval on revisions to Administrative Policy 8.08, entrance age. Jennifer Mims Howell is here and prepared to go through the revisions. Jennifer?
Chair Peterson, members of the committee, tonight we ask that you approve the revisions to Administrative Policy 8.08, entrance age, to change the statement to reflect that a child must be 5 years of age by September 1 in the school year in which the student enters 5-year-old kindergarten for the first time. This is a language update, and we ask for your approval.
Thank you very much. Any commentary, questions or comments from our committee? Any public testimony on this one? Madam Secretary?
We have no request for public testimony on this item.
Thank you. I think I'm looking for a motion. Director Simpson.
I move approval of the revisions to Administrative Policy 8.08, entrance age.
Thank you very much. Any other commentary, comments? No? Okay, Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
On the motion as read into the record by Director Simpson relative to the revisions to Administrative Policy 8.08, entrance age. Director Leonard.
Aye.
Director Simpson.
Aye.
Director Taylor. And Chair Peterson.
Aye.
That's 4 ayes. The motion passes.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, next item, please.
Mr. Chair, that was the last item on this meeting's agenda.
Oh, well, in that case, this meeting is adjourned.